There is this saying around HSR that if you throw a stone here, it would probably hit a founder. I decided to quit my job. I'll be starting a new company. It will be in diamonds and I'm named it Cosmos. Papa, he woke up the next day, saw missed calls, saw the first message that I have something very important to tell and he's like, what do you know? If you start me on it, I'll just keep going on it.
And that's how all founders are. We'll never stop talking about what we are building. If you are going to shut down Cosmos and start another lab-grown diamond tomorrow, what would you not do it?
Actually, nothing to do with business, but I think I will take much lesser stress this time.
Good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking the time. So what's Cosmos like now?
So yes, Cosmos is a lab-grown diamond jewelry brand. It is run by women, and I'm proud to say that I think out of all the brands that are there today, we have the largest range, best collection, great policy. Yeah, if you start me on it, I'll just keep going on it.
And that's how all founders are. We'll never stop talking about what we are building.
So we had a curious question, right? Like, why did you choose HSR layout, and especially in Bangalore, and then why in Bangalore HSR layout?
There is this saying around HSR that if you throw a stone here, it would probably hit a founder. So I felt, see, lab-grown diamonds are not usual, right? So it takes a little bit of understanding and education to really accept them and embrace them. So typical jewelry area in Bangalore is usually Jayanagar. But Jayanagar is typically for someone who's aged 40 and above. It's mostly family. But when you take HSR, this place is filled with young people who are ready to try new things. So we felt HSR would be the right place.
What was the first time you realized that, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret this for my life?
That's a funny story. It was actually in October 2020, the night before my engagement. It was midnight. I was supposed to get engaged the next day. I didn't have a ring because few weeks we did all this jewelry shopping, didn't like anything, didn't understand anything, too much chaos. And it just came to me and I decided. I called my fiance at that point. He didn't pick up. It was 2 o'clock in the midnight. I texted him a message saying, hey, listen, I have something very important to tell you. Then I texted, I decided to quit my job. I'll be starting a new company. It will be in diamonds and I'm named it Cosmos. Papa, he woke up the next day, saw missed calls, saw the first message that I have something very important to tell and he's like, what do you know? Is she not going to marry me or what? And then read the remaining and was like, okay, fine. Yeah, this we can do.
My question would be what's one thing about the diamond industry that you think a lot of people don't know yet?
I think many people don't know this, that diamonds are actually not rare. Most luxury things, in fact, most of it is just perception building and creating some kind of artificial scarcity. Like if you pick something like a Birkin bag or even the natural diamond mining and all that, if you actually see that bit of the industry, you will find no glamour, nothing. So I think many people don't know this. Diamonds are so beautiful, but they are not rare.
One thing that I keep hearing from founders, you change a lot once you start the journey. So what is it like for you when you look back, Sanjana, before the 2 a.m. decision to start Cosmos and Sanjana after that?
So honestly, I grew up being a very polite, humble, people-pleasing, introvert kind of a person. You won't believe I would run away from social gatherings or any such things. But now if I see, I think I did a 360 shift from that. Unpopular opinion, but I truly feel, like you said, entrepreneurship is like therapy. It shows up the most unhealed, raw parts of you and then force you to face it. So yeah, I think I'm a very different person.
I have a special question for you. So basically, what do male founders get wrong when they try to support a women founder? Because my wife is a women founder.
So yeah, definitely not just founders, especially since I'm a solo founder and a woman entrepreneur, I keep getting this a lot. First of all, when I meet a bunch of founders and I say that this is the scene, the first thing is, oh, it's like a passion project. Oh, it's like a hobby. It's like, then I'll have to give numbers and give my vision to make it like, oh, this is a serious venture. And then they start acting, I know that many of them don't do it intentionally, but there are cues. You can get them, They start acting very, very gracious, very generous, very preachy. Like, we don't need any of that. we just want to be seen as what we are and not all this Abla Nari syndrome.
What did you overestimate at the start and what did you underestimate at the start?
Truth be told, I think I did not do many calculations or estimations when I began. It was purely, I identified an opportunity and I was just really very excited. it just built it out in me so much that I just have to start and do. So truth be told, I did not have many estimations and calculations, but in hindsight, I think I realized I definitely overestimated how quickly users will get your product. I was like, oh, this is logical, this is value, I'm giving a great product, come now you should buy it, but no, that's not how it works. So yeah, whereas what I underestimated would be, I think a lot of transparency and authenticity. Like you won't believe, the first 3 years, a lot of our business ran because of referrals. So that's all because of authenticity and transparency.
So, what things did you do in terms of getting over that and trying to make sure that your reality is the reality? How did you come in terms with that?
No, actually, so all of that happens before you start. Once you start, no, there is no running away. No, this is not a PPT or a presentation. Nobody is giving us marks. You are seeing whether customers are buying or not, whether revenue numbers will speak, your team will speak. So there's just no escape. So but I think founders lose this a lot because if you lose sense of reality, your whole business is going to crumble. I can't afford to be delusional. You have to stick. Oh, it's not selling. Okay, let's fix it. Oh, people are leaving. Oh, why not fix it? So it made me very hyper realistic and very self-aware.
Can you recall one such gyan that you got from probably LinkedIn, which you think doesn't make sense at all?
Same, Riju. Even now I use very less LinkedIn unless when I'm looking for people to hire. So LinkedIn is filled with overqualified people, fancy quotes. But to be honest, at least as a founder, right, in true entrepreneurial journey, no one quote, one case study, one policy sticks true. It is more about that situational intelligence with so many fires that keep happening and how you respond to them at that point.
So Sanjana, what is one question which you took and it made you feel stupid then, but it turned out to be very great?
I think the whole idea of picking up lab-grown diamonds as a niche when the industry didn't exist, many people told me I would fail. In fact, in the beginning, since this is not an industry that I was familiar with before, I would wait I'll find some jewelers and I'll learn from them, and they would all tell me, you started this, you will fail. But now I see them evolving and also starting smaller brands. So yeah.
My last question would be like, if you are going to shut down Cosmos and start another lab-grown diamond tomorrow, what would you not do again?
Actually, nothing to do with business, but I think I will take much lesser stress this time. Because people underestimate. See, after these 5 years, I truly believe businesses are not built by systems and strategies, but by people. So people's mental health and physical health is very, very important. So if you can't burn out very early because you will lose the passion for why you started. So I would actually, if I start again, I will take much lesser stress. I will build with much more peace and calmness.
Do you typically do anything purposefully to keep your mental health and calmness intact?
Yes, switch off my phone.
So Sanjana, that brings us to the last segment, which is a rapid fire round. So I'll quickly ask you questions and you have to not think and just answer. Okay, we ready? Founder life in one word.
Intense.
Risk you take most often.
Intuition.
One word your team would use to describe you.
Maybe that I'm empathetic.
Decision-making style, instinct or data?
I actually consume a lot of data, but I rely on my instincts. I actually believe instinct is itself a lot of data processed very fast.
One emotion you feel every single day as a founder.
Purpose.
Amazing. So guys, yes, if this was helpful, do like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And if you want someone specific to be featured in the podcast, just drop us a comment.
And see you in the next one. So it's a wrap, guys. Claps, everyone. Woo! Good one. Amazing.
Okay, that was genuinely fast.